Welcome everyone to another exciting week of our Mission Matters weekly show on Twitter Spaces. Every week we put together a dialogue for our authors, our speakers, our audience. This week's topic is what work activities can you prepare going into the new year in 2023? And so with that, for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, Mission Matters is the name of our company, and we are a multimedia platform focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, executives, experts, and enterprises. Our mission is essentially to help amplify your stories, or the stories of our hosts, of our authors, and our podcast guests, so that we can inspire and educate future generations. With that, we are also a book publishing company. We're also a podcast agency. We're also a PR agency now, and also a digital marketing company as well, with recent growth that we've done with our company. And so with that, I'm going to pass the baton here to Adam, who's going to go around and introduce all of our speakers here, and then we'll ask a few questions and then turn this into like a fireside chat. So feel free to chime in. These conversations and dialogues are similar to like a dinner conversation, as if we're at a dinner table, and we'll all have a turn to speak and kind of connect and even ask each other questions too. So with that, Adam, why don't you feel free to take the lead?
Awesome. Thank you, Chirag. And good to see everyone here as we get into preparing for the new year. I didn't know if anybody was going to show up. I'm like, we're already in mid-December. So it's good to see so many people here. I guess we'll just go around. Joanna, if you want to maybe start with introducing yourself, please.
Hey, thanks everyone. This is Joanna Pineda. I'm CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. So we're a digital agency, and I'm going to practice my new elevator speech with you guys, okay? You guys can give me some feedback.
Yeah.
So here it is. So we help associations and nonprofits increase revenue, increase membership, generate revenue, and thrive in the digital space. And we do it through web, mobile, social, and virtual and hybrid meetings.
Bravo.
Do you guys like it?
I like it. Chirag, you need to tighten yours up, man.
I know, right?
All right. Thank you, Joanna. Great to see you. Denley, welcome.
Yeah, Adam, fellow Buffalo Bill fan, and we're going to take Miami out this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. Apart from being a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm up in Canada, snowy Canada, specifically in Toronto, and we're going to dig ourselves out of 30 centimeters, so likely, well, sorry, I don't know the conversion. That's probably 1 foot of snow in the U.S. A little about the work that I do. I help leaders to build their leadership skills. I help workplaces to build a real wholesome culture through just the power of belonging, diversity, and inclusion, applied in such a way that individuals and organizations know each other better and they are rowing toward the same destination and goal. That's me. I speak, I facilitate, I coach. I speak to thousands. I can coach with a toddler. So you name the audience, I'm there to inspire and encourage. So that's me in a nutshell, and I look forward to work with those who are interested.
Oh, man, awesome. Great having you here, Denley. Mayor, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, so, my name is Mahir Vartanian, leading commercial real estate broker based out of Philadelphia, but I transact, across the country. I did 15 different states this year, as well as, I'm an investor as well. And, I help my clients either find deals or we raise capital to pick up some deals. And
Awesome.
Yeah, no, basically it.
Awesome. All right, well, let's dive in. So I think this was an appropriate one for us today, Chirag. So good job on the topic. And I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chirag. I think this is our last one for the year. Am I wrong?
No, that's correct. This is the last one going into for 2022. So
yeah, so I think we'll be dark. Yeah, we'll be dark. I think the next 2 weeks or so. I think we got about 2 weeks left. So let's just kick it off.
What am I going to do on Thursday nights?
Oh, come on! I know. Watch some K-dramas. I don't know.
You better believe it.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's just get it kicked off. Preparing for 2023, work or otherwise. What's everybody doing?
Hey, it's Joanna. You want me to start?
Let's do it. Come on.
In addition to the normal, budgeting and planning and stuff that we're doing, there's a couple of things that we're doing that we started doing last year that really helped us in 2022. And one bunch of them, but one thing that I'm doing along with my VP is we are having a 1-to-1 meeting or a 2-to-1 with every single staff member. And we are basically asking them one question. What's it going to take to make 2023 amazing so that you stay at Matrix Group another year? Because I got to hold on to my staff, and I want them to be very explicit with me about the things that I can do to keep them and to help them really have an amazing year. So that's the first thing that I'm doing. The second thing that we're doing is I ask my people what their word for the year is. I always have a word for the year. I don't have my word yet, but I said, hey, what's your word? Let's talk about it. What's the word that you want to guide your, kind of your actions and your thoughts next year? The other thing that we are doing is I read an article recently, and it's about 2 Stanford professors who talked about really brainstorm. And it was so good that we're going to try it with my CRM team and with my virtual meeting platform team. And if you guys want, I'll tell you about it. But basically, it's a new way to brainstorm that will generate hundreds of ideas instead of dozens. So we're going to give it a shot. And that's one thing that we're going to do in 23 to hopefully really keep the innovation engine and the idea machine just going at Matrix. So those are some of the things we're doing to just prep for 23 and just, hopefully get us off to a really great start.
That's awesome. Can you, Joanna, I just heard this concept the other day. Maybe everybody else has or hasn't. The whole idea of a state interview. Like I was interviewing somebody probably, I don't know, it might have been Tuesday or last Thursday. I was interviewing somebody and they were telling me about the idea of this state interview. And when they explained it, I'm like, that's pretty genius. How come I never heard of that? Like, have you done those in the past? I'm just curious, just in general, your history with this concept.
So we started doing it last year and nobody left this year. And so, it was basically every single person, my VP and I met with them and we just want to check in with you. How's it going? What was your year like? And I told them in advance, I said, I just got one question for you. What's it going to take to make 2022 amazing so that you stay another year? And for some folks, they were very thoughtful. I had one guy who said, there's a specific type of project that I would like. Go find it for me. And I said, okay, I'm going to try and find that project for you. And then a couple other people, I swear to God, they would say things like, I could really use another monitor. And I would just order the monitor instantly because that's what it took for them to, they couldn't think of anything else.
Wow.
And then, obviously there were a handful of people who were like, I'd love to make a ton more money. And I couldn't give them a ton more money. And we just laugh about it. And I'd say, well, okay, I can do this. And this is what I was planning. But let's talk about how we can plus up your skills so that I am in a position to really give you a bunch more money if you're candid about it. And then, there was one woman who said, I would really like to have a schedule that allows me to really maybe run some errands during the day and really focus on my health and exercise. So because we've got some remote folks who work like the 3 to midnight shift, she works from 8 to 12 and is off from 12 to 4 and then works 4 to 8 or 4 to 9. And this has been brilliant. She is so happy. She gets to go to the mall, exercise, do whatever it is she needs to do during the day. But I have extra coverage in the evening for some of my remote staff. Everybody wins. I didn't have to pay more money. And she's delighted. So it was sparked by a conversation where I said, what's it going to take? And she was like, well, this is kind of a crazy request, but this is what I would love to do. And I kind of took it back to the team and I said, is there any reason that we shouldn't let her do this? So those are some of the things that have come out of these stay interviews.
Wow. And that could have been like one of those things missed, and something like a monitor. That's so interesting to me.
It's crazy.
It's like I would have given you a monitor a long time ago. Are you kidding me?
I know.
But I feel like sometimes we think intuitively like we're going to get some of that feedback, and I shouldn't say most, but many are not going to be that bold to just say what they want because they're not necessarily thinking about it.
Well, I had a guy who said, I really want to explore 3D on the web. And I said, I don't even know what that is. I said, VR? He said, no, 3D on the web. It's very different. And I said, okay. So we were going after a theater. So I said to them, hey, as part of this project, Can we set aside a little bit of budget to explore some 3D on the web? And I said, I'll even discount it because I've got someone who's very interested in this. And they were all over it. My guy's really interested, so we're exploring it. It's not launched. He's psyched because he is able to take a personal interest. I was pretty psyched because I didn't know much about it. And so he gave me another thing to sell this client. And I think he felt really heard with his request. So it's been a win-win. I really encourage you to do it. It's time consuming, but what else should I be spending my time on, as my VP likes to say? What else are you going to spend your time on, Joanna, your staff and your clients?
Man, that's awesome. Who else wants to kind of chime in here? And thank you, John. That's awesome. Or ask questions. This is not my interview. Anybody else have questions? Like, throw it out there. I don't want to hog the conversation. I just had heard that concept, and I'm like, man, Joanna's doing it. Of course she is. Go ahead, Denley.
Yeah, I mean, it's a broad question in terms of what can we be doing or what I can suggest. I think as leaders, that we get into the holiday season, it's a great time to reflect. So reflection is something that I enjoy doing. I like to do. I enjoy reflecting just by doing the monotony of where I am, shoveling. I find that a lot more innovation happens when you're actually away from your work and engaging in activities that is pretty much on autopilot. And in that space, whether you are shoveling, doing the dishes, engaging in reflective thinking about the year ahead, the work ahead, the week ahead, I find innovation sparks there because you're not encumbered with the actual work itself that gets in the way with brainstorming, your own personal brainstorming. I do a lot of reflecting. And one of the things that I reflected on is just finding real good people, as Joanna said, to stick, to ride along, kind of the ride and die sort of folks that you really identify and really pour in and invest in. And so I'm kind of going through that identifying journey of those people that I want to ride and die with. I'm a person that character precedes competency. Not to say I don't believe in competency. I like people with skills and prowess and capabilities. But the character is so important to find those people who are honest and trustworthy, who understand you and you understand them. Because you can always build on capability, but you can't always build on character. And so find those people who have the character, who are really invested in you, and vice versa, that you can then cultivate the capabilities and the culture that comes with it. So the work that I do, I always look for people who I can really trust and then say, okay, if you are willing to go there, I'm going to pour into you. And I found making those investments, then finding someone who is quite suave and skilled. And those are people who would just come and essentially it's a drive through. They'll take, can you make that an extra large? And just drive off with all your resources, but haven't really poured in. So I'm looking for people who bring, it's almost a potluck mentality. They bring something to the game. They bring something to the dinner, bring something. And so I'm really focusing on finding those individuals and expanding my team. One of the things I was thinking about in terms of also reflective thinking is, just building, where are the relationships I'm not being bold in, and just being honest where we are in our relationship, personally and professionally, and how's that dragging me in being my best me? Because the work that I do is try to empower people and try to help C-suite leaders, executive leaders. And when you're at that level, it's less of the technical aspect. It's about really the relationships. And I find a lot of leaders struggling with those sort of courageous conversations. And so the more courageous conversations I know I personally engage in and continue to look to develop, the more stories and anecdotes I can share with others. And so that's one of the other things I'm looking to do personally. I think lastly, at least at this moment, I think about life. I think about purpose. My father passed away about a few weeks ago, and seeing the things that I have done and wish I could continue to show. He saw a lot of the things that I've done, but there was much more work to be unveil to them and say, look, Dad, this is what I had in the pipe. This is what I had in the pipeline. So I'm more committed to say, what can I do to move the agenda of leaving a legacy, leaving a mark in this world? And one of the things that come to me is really working with teenagers and youth on in terms of how they can get along better with those who are, we quote, see them as others, see them as sort of kind of alien, someone foreign to us. How do we train the next generation? Because say the Gen Zs, they're going to be our bosses at some point. And if they inherit some of the bad ways of this current generation and how they handle people, we're in trouble. We're going to have to do all this work over again. So really getting to that next generation, working with not only C-suite leaders in the professional zone or corporate, but also within the schools, universities to reach that echelon. And that's how I'm going to be looking to leave a mark more so. That's what I want to share at this point in terms of my little bit of what I want to be doing, reflecting, having bold conversations, and really thinking about the sort of legacies that I want to leave behind.
Any tips on the reflection side, Denley? I'm curious because I have some friends that like how do you reflect, if you don't mind me asking? Like, 'cause I have some friends that they and colleagues that they literally they're offline, like they go almost like meditation mode, like you can't reach them for a while. Other people they take a day or a weekend. I'm curious, like what's your style?
Yeah, I mean, reflection, it comes in myriad ways. I think you have to find your own posture. So when I say own posture, it could be like when I'm going to shower or I'm showering, yeah, reflect because I have nothing else to do. But I can wash myself, but I can also reflect on what I'm going to do. So you can do it is there, or yeah, you can be like in a church and you're just reflecting.
Any difference for the end of the year though? I'm just curious if like I'm more so saying like end of year ritual style, like what I was mentioning. Maybe I wasn't clear. Like okay. Do you have any end of year rituals for this kind of or reflection processes you can share?
It's all good. Playing sports, so you have those sort of experiences. But I think, yeah, in terms of the end of the year, I like when you like opening gifts, like really before you open that gift from the loved one, I think you take the time to one, gratitude and thankfulness. And for me, faith is a big part of it. And just really for me, thanking my maker, thanking God that, this is where I am. And then really think at those moments when you're with your family to really be intentional, like what is it about this year that was different from last year? And get people to pause and to do that bit of thinking, because I think if you get people to pause before they open the present or pause before they eat, those are wonderful ways to really think about. Another way too, I would say in reflection, is to go around the circle and say, hey, what are one or two things that so-and-so did for you that was really significant? Like Adam, some of the things that I appreciate getting to know you, apart from being a Buffalo Bills fan, that, yeah, you have a heart to expand and amplify folks' mission. I appreciate that from you. When you do that, go around the room, around the dinner table, the kitchen table, and do that just before you engage in holiday meals or Christmas meal or Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, what have you. I think people stop and say, I didn't know you thought that about me. Then you ask them to pause and really contemplate what that person has said about them and see what that engenders. So I think that's a practical way during a holiday as you get together to just not get sucked into the commercialism of the season, but to really allow people to step back and appreciate the presence of each other, not just the presence that they give. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. It's great stuff. Mayor, let's get you involved, man. Are you doing anything special towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, typically towards the end of the year, it's basic business planning, business plan review from the year prior and, what we need to be doing for the following year. It's just, I'm very strict on having my guys write down their business plan. So, this time of year, I'll print out the one from last year. They'll bring me their new one from this year. We compare and contrast, see what's, everyone has a set achievable goals. Very basic, very rudimentary, but it keeps people focused throughout the year. I make them print it out, put it on top of their desks. So every week, every day, we're looking at it. This year, we're doing different things in terms of just kind of pairing off, having accountability partners. Not really pairing off, just, there's only 6 of us. It's me and I have, 5 junior agents under me. Better accountability for the week and the month to make sure we're hitting our goals on a more consistent basis, especially as, the business environment's changing this year. Rates are rising, costs are increasing for everyone across the board. We're hiring more people now, which is exciting. I think the labor market's been very great for us. Easier to hire now than it was 5 months ago. And, it's on the client side, it's more or less kind of, we're looking at this like how we looked when COVID started. It wasn't about getting deals done at that point because the whole world froze, and we're going to enter a freeze as well. So it's reaching out to clients, touching base, seeing what their needs are on other aspects of the business versus transactionary, and just being there, telling them what we hear, providing more of our loss leaders, right? The research aspect of the business, the data points, conversations, introductions to other third parties that they may need help with. This is going to be a time for restructuring across the board for our clients. So it's figuring out ways that we can be involved every step of the way, so that when, there is some sort of liquidity event, we can be involved when the time is right. And if you're planning the business out like that, our theory is that we're going to be able to track a lot more of those, let's say, loss leaders, in terms of time management through the year than you will on one transaction. So if it takes you 3 months to close out a deal and it's taking a few hours of your day, the loss leaders should take maybe 30 minutes of your day, but we're not even going to be handling them. That's why we're hiring more staff, so that our staff can be handling the dissemination of information, getting the proper research, connecting the people with who they need to, making sure follow-ups are executed. We hire someone full-time just to manage our CRM at this point, which has been a huge help. And we're going to be doubling down on that strategy. And right now, we're kind of just tooling up for the new year. Everyone's more rates are going to do to our industry. And guys, in their early to mid 20s, who've never seen a recession, they've never seen interest rates at the 7% mark. And, they're worried. There's a sense of fear in them, but they're all motivated. And it's just keeping that momentum, that forward momentum of motivation moving forward consistently. And that's what's going to get us through the year. That's what we've been working on for the last couple of weeks, and we feel good about it. We're confident.
Hey, Mayor, this is Joanna. I remember when I bought my first condo, I won't tell you how many years ago. I think my rate was 7 5/8 or something, and I was psyched about that rate. It was a terrific rate at the time. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, when sellers are looking to sell at 6% returns and buyers are looking to buy at 12% returns, there's a large gap in the middle, and that's what we're trying to bridge right now. And, it's reminiscent of 2007. And I wasn't involved in the business then. I've only been in the business for 5 years, but from mentors I have, there's a lot of parallels from now and then. So, but every cycle is different. So you can only extract so much from the previous cycle.
Chirag, let's get you involved in here, man. What are you doing over there? What are you doing to plan for us for having a good 2023?
It's funny. I know Joanna was talking about, the staffing side, the stay interviews, more or less doing the same thing right now with our clients. And, fortunately, we launched a newer division, with our PR division, like maybe a month and a half ago, signed up, I think like 10, 12 clients so far, whatever it is now. But it's not just that, it's also on the podcast agency side, where just with the looming, possible recession or maybe downturn in the economy, who knows what's going to happen with that, have been engaging a lot of the clients. And similar to what the stay interview is, it's more so, what will it keep you to, stay engaged with us at Mission Matters? What can we do to be helpful? And what resources, what tools do you need? And I'll give you an example. I actually had a really good conversation. I actually ended up doing impromptu meeting, ended up becoming a full strategy 1-hour session where just to connect and meet more people. I think I've got a Rolodex of close to like 10,000 business cards that just lie there. And so for me, it becomes time to just re-engage a lot of old friends, that's some that I haven't connected with in 5 to 10 years. And so usually right now, and also just for myself, it just comes down to being a really great time to do a catch up. One thing that the first company that I ever worked at was a startup nonprofit 10 years ago. The CEO of our company would send out an annual personal email and like company-wide update email to every single person he's met. And he kind of has like a rolling database. A lot of these people he downloaded or got the database from LinkedIn, and others he's just kind of accumulated. So as that's been growing, every year he'll send out like, hey, this is like my quick personal update and this is my like company-wide update. I've done something similar, not quite as organized, but it's allowed me to kind of stay engaged and top of mind with a lot of friends. Sometimes it could just be like a quick email check-in and I'll get a bunch of responses from friends that'll just send a response. Sometimes it'll just end up in a catch-up call, and in the past, it has translated to growth in the business. Sometimes it's led to partnerships. Sometimes it's just led to cool catch-ups with me not knowing that, maybe someone has moved recently to a close, like to LA, for example. I had that happen last year. We had a few friends who ended up moving to LA. One of my friends, actually, I didn't talk to him since college. So it's been well over a decade. Turned out that he moved back to LA and we've hung out a few times. So it's like reconnecting with old friends, creates an excuse. But anyway, those are all a few different
Hey,
things.
Chirag, can I ask you a couple questions about that email?
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a personal email and a work email. Are they separate emails? Are they two emails? Are you using a service? You're sending it one by one? Separate.
Yeah, no, separate email. So the work email is just more like in our case, it would be like, hey, this is what's new with Mission Matters in the past year. This is how we've grown. And it's like, maybe it could be like a short checklist. The way that he's done it is like, it'll be like a 2-3 minute read. So it's pretty brief. And it'll be like, hey, these are like 10 things that like I've learned. These are some challenges that I've been able to face. Maybe this is how I've overcome them, or these are like things that I'm considering. And then and then I've seen like personal updates, which is like, could be family oriented, could be if you're moving locations, if you're traveling anytime soon, or what books you're reading, what personal challenges you might be facing. So there's a differential between both of them.
Ooh. And they're obviously going to separate lists.
They
Not
can.
necessarily?
Well, it depends. All right. I think there could be like a lot of work people that maybe you just don't have that personal touch with. And maybe for whatever reason, if it just comes down to, I guess, personal preference, I tend to combine both together just because who I am, like Mission Matters is part of who I am. And so, if you're in my life, you probably, I spend a lot of time on Mission Matters, right? So it is a good incorporation of my life. So I include people in both, and it's like an ongoing list that I keep. A lot of these are like, they're more like a BCC email. So it goes like direct to email. What I've seen is like, if you use an email service system, the only issue I have with them is that sometimes those emails end up in spam, or like sometimes they do. So I like to just try to send it more direct from my personal email or my company email account.
Wow, thank you for that. I mean, like, so this is Joanna again. I'm going to ask Chirag a bunch of questions. So how many people are on your list?
I have a lot. I mean,
that you're BCCing?
No, well, I have to send it in batches and across several days. Okay. So, because I'm limited on the amount of emails I can send. So,
yeah, Gmail's not going to be happy with you if you send out, 2,500 people on that BCC list.
No, and they don't allow you to do that anyway. It just
exactly.
People. But I have to batch it up. Usually it's like close to 10,000 people. So I have to do like 1,000 over like 10 days. Something along those lines.
So I'm on that list from now on, right?
You will be, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I received one of those emails too, Chirag, and I'm guessing we were on the same list from E3. And that was one that stuck out to me, and I thought it was awesome because I've known him, and I think he's been on the show a couple times, and it might not be the same person that you received, by the way. That was one that stuck out, and I'm guessing that you're on his list as well. And he doesn't really send too much stuff out at all, like just in general. Like he's definitely not, he's not a marketer in that sense. And I think the company off the top of my head that he joined was Mr. Something Builder or something like that. I forget what it was. Yep. But I thought it was really well done because he also gave the personal side of it. So I personally felt closer to him, even though we don't have any, like I didn't know much about his personal life at all. It's all been professional. But now having received that and him sharing part of his personal side, I personally wasn't marketing with anything, but I feel marketed like I'm closer to him. Just throwing that out there from how I received that email, Joanna, which also led me to think, I never really share anything like that, any type of update or otherwise. Should I be? I don't know. And I thought it was pretty cool.
I love the idea. Thank you.
Yeah, MD3, I am on his list, and I've received his emails and agreed. This was actually one of my former colleagues, Ted, back in the day. It was like my first gig. That's funny. I think he sent his 10th email like this, 10th annual email like this. So it's cool to kind of see the first email to like, the email. I haven't done a cross comparison to see how it's evolved, but there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just whatever makes sense for you. I've seen him kind of combine it initially, where it was just like the work, and then he'll have like the work section at top or personal section at the top, and then work section at the bottom. So you kind of get the work email updates, you get the personal life updates, and it just basically it just reads as like one simple email. It's like a 5-minute read, but you get to kind of see, oh, this is like how I'm progressing in life. This is like what I've done over the last year. This is how I'm looking to grow. Would love to hear from you, right? Something along those lines. But it's a great way to kind of stay connected with people, especially you meet so many people, right? And sometimes people go in and out of your life, but it's a great way to stay engaged. It's a simple, quick email that goes out, right?
Thank you. I love this.
Yeah, my planning for the end of the year is I'm trying to take a page from Denley's book on the reflection side, because I always tend to just go right into the next year just because of, I don't know, I think it's just the nature of what we do. Like the shows, I mean, we're already booked till I think at the end of January already, and like just all these other things and projects. So I never usually give myself that opportunity to just stop for even a weekend between like the current year and then the next year. So I think that's my goal, and going into this next year is to make sure I take at least a solid weekend, maybe even a Friday, and just kind of over and above just the normal stuff, accounting and otherwise, that you do and going into the next year of the business, but to think about just the overall, where the business has gone, what it's grown, and like the products and things like that, and just kind of see what the vision of next year could be. And I think that's going to be kind of my to-do going into 2023, because we had a good year, and interested to kind of see how we can up the ante for our clients, the brand, and just everybody concerned. I mean, everybody on here on this particular call that's on the panel are authors and then part of the community overall. So it's interesting to see how we can keep on really just upping the ante for everyone, and in terms of getting their story out there. So that's going to be a fun project going into the next year.
So Adam, just curious, you did a talk
Hey, Adam, this
last
is
week?
Joanna. Let me ask you a question. So if you're going to do that planning, will you do it by yourself with the whole team?
You know what's interesting about this? And me and Chirag do a lot of planning, but I think I like just in general, we obviously the company planning, the business planning, but on the product development side and that side of it, I tend to be able to, create whatever, like, let's just say 1 being the worst product, 10 being the best. I can probably get like the idea to a solid 5 of where we need to be. And it's usually pretty spot on, at least in terms of like direction. And then the team will come in and either shoot it down, or it's something that we'll try. But probably the initial part is just me. I don't know. That's just kind of the way my head works. But then nothing's set in stone, by the way, Joanna. It's just saying that whatever's proposed, and it doesn't mean that everybody else can't propose something. It's just that's usually where it started, and I have these discussions of like, okay, so what are the next things, or this or that, and I guess we're still a nimble executive team, so we tend to get a lot done if we all agree on at least a direction, and then I probably step away when it comes to some of the execution of the fine points, or how do we actually get some of this done. That's been I don't know if that's going to be the case always, but that's been where we're at like currently as a company. And that's a great question, Joanna, because I've been having these discussions over the last couple of days. So it's different. It's different.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah.
Hey, Denley, you're just like curious, your talk, you did TEDx talk, or remember the year event?
That was fun. That was great to meet it wasn't a TEDx talk, it was a GifterX talk, and the person that was there, which I was just really excited about, was to meet the TED founder. So Richard Saul Wurman, and to see like some of his, I don't know if, and I'll share one of these because I don't know if they're going to release this piece of it or not, or if it's going to be saved for like a later documentary or what. But I'll maybe leak one of the stories there. So here you have, if you think about it, so Richard's now, don't quote me, he might be 84, I think. So, he's seen, let's just say, a lot in his life. And again, he founded the TED Talk, the actual TED conference, not just the TEDx or anything like that. So the actual one, I think back in the 80s is when it started. And he didn't let go of the conference or sell it, I think, until the early 2000s. So let's just say, 2005, I don't know, or 2002, whatever it was. So you have this man who, like, he's seen a lot, and he's seen, come across his stage and what he's doing. He's seen, decades of innovation and new ideas and other things like that. And at the very end, when it was the one question that stuck to me was the idea of, did he miss, like, what was one of his big failures or mistakes or something like that in life, or something that, I don't think it was worded like hurt him. It wasn't that. It was like, what big failure did he have? And he was noticeably uncomfortable. And I'm telling you, he did like maybe a 5-minute setup of, like, kind of grappling with himself also on, like, was he willing to share this publicly? But he's just a super authentic dude, and I couldn't believe he went there to share it authentically, and it's something that, like, even people in his life didn't know, and he was willing to actually share it on stage. And I was, like, shocked, because he could have softballed the question, he could have rolled it, he could have made a joke out of it, but he, like, respected the question, and he dug deep to answer it. And what he shared kind of shocked me, and it was interesting, was that he basically, later in his years, let's call it in his 70s, I don't know what it was or when exactly the time period was, but well after the TED days. But he's an artist as well. And he's an architect, by the way. I think it was architect off the top of my head, or designer. Like, he was some formally trained profession like that. And I do believe it is architecture. But anyway, so he has this artistic incline. And so he goes to, like, later in his years, he's working on he's a painter, he's a sculptor, he creates bronzes, all these other things. And so I forget what the name of the museum is out there in Miami, the particular one, but based on his name, based on who he is, they put together this whole event for him, and basically, a huge exhibition. A lot of people came, a lot of people showed up. And to hear him share this story, like, of course, people, they show up, all these other things. But, like, after that event, he didn't really hear much about it. And so, like, his validation of as an artist wasn't really met. And, like, one of the things that he always kind of wished that he pursued. And so he felt that was, like, a noticeable, like, defeat and failure in his life. And what's interesting is that when he's sharing this story, like, he's not in tears to where he's, like, crying, but he's really emotional about this. Like, he's digging deep to share this. And what it came down to, and kind of some of his closing words, were basically that we all have this need, like, as humans, to feel connection and to feel connected and to feel like their work validated, whatever that work is that you do that is important to you, that you feel validated. And that was a big failure to him, because he didn't really feel validated in his work as an artist. And even at his age, and even with his, like, experience and credibility and the things that he's accomplished in his life, like, he still felt that human need for validation. And so that was, like, one of his big takeaways at the end of us all being connected as humans. And man, you could hear a pin drop after that one. I was like, I'm glad I don't have to talk next, but but it's a story he's never shared. Like, there were some people in his life that were there, like, I think his assistants, some other people there, like, wow, they were shocked they'd never heard that one. And I was like, whoa, that was interesting. And I think it was validating for everyone in the audience, no matter where you were at in your level of your journey, whether you're just getting started or whether you were, someone of, let's just say somebody that's maybe accomplished something along the lines of what he's done. I just thought I was shocked, and it just it hit home, and I'm like, wow, it was amazing. But that was the event, Denley. It was great. And to be able to share the stage and add my little piece to it, whatever I talked about, and to obviously represent Mission Matters, our authors, and carry that flag to wherever I need to, like, it was fun.
It sounds like that, and because I guess I was curious in terms, it sounds like a real memorable experience for you, and how will that moment carry over in the new year for your team or for you personally?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm pretty inspired, and what I got from that is that we need to do more in person, like provide more opportunities like that. Like, it's been on our roadmap for a long time, and we were about to start down that line prior to COVID, because I do think that in person, I'm all for virtual too, but the idea of filling up a theater or filling up, a conference, and providing that opportunity and that stage for people to get their message across and to have those type of connections and experiences, like, I feel that is definitely in the space of what Mission Matters should be doing, and what that looks like or what that translates into. The good part about this is Chirag's thrown, I don't know, 500, 600 events in his life, so this is definitely going to be his to do. So that's how it works in Denley. That means everybody has more work.
I just got voluntold.
Nah, Chirag loves it. He loves throwing events. It's all good. I didn't. Don't even try it. Don't even try it.
Only good fun. This is recorded. I gotta play along.
Yeah.
And you know what? You hit a good point, a real salient point. I think this is the challenge probably in most businesses that grow, to be able to do both well, to be able to, I believe, like large groups in person. That's where you inspire. That's where you find, that's my tribe. That's my peeps. You don't get that as well in the virtual space. So the inspiration really comes better from the large group, but the accountability piece is where the small groups and those virtual tools in place to cultivate the checking in that Joanna, you're talking about, being able to put those cycle times in. It's hard work, because everyone's inspired, but the drop off is immense after all those events. It's the grind and the nuts and bolts. And if you don't have those sort of accountability pieces in place within your organization or whatever endeavor you do, because discipline is really the grease that keeps those gears going after you have the fuel. I think that as I think about those real key events and what I reflect on why it didn't materialize as quickly as I would want, is that you have that sort of core group of people say, hey, how's it going? Where are we going here? And which I sound like, you and Chirag have, Adam, and I know Joanna, I know you're kind of building in that, but having both in place and being able to be a speaker that can inspire everybody, and then say, okay, who are you accountable to keep this thing going, is going to be key for a lot of these organizations to stay nimble and respond. At least that's my thought, as Denley.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Denley. And we normally keep these to about an hour, not cutting anybody off or cutting it short. But does anybody have any, just kind of final words and closing statements, words of wisdom, anything else? This is the last one for 2022. So speak now or hold your peace till January.
Well, I'll say one thing. Anything is worth doing, then just do. And I think for 2023, don't be afraid of the judgment of others. Just do you. And those who are around you to rally, those are people in your corner. Rely on them, lean on them. Those are the voices you want to hear, because most people will be against you or will say things that will try to deflate you. But you keep your eye on the goal. You keep pushing ahead, and just know that you got to do you, and just see it through. And that's what I would probably say for 2023.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, Chirag, if you wanna take it away.
All right, everyone. So thanks so much for tuning in. Again, these conversations are recorded, so our team will be editing this, and then we'll publish it live and share it with all of you that were on this, and then with our network at large. This is our final Mission Matters Twitter Spaces for 2022, and so the next one will be in 2023. We'll be sending an email for that, so be on the lookout. Hope you all enjoy the holidays and have a happy new year. And firstly, let's make sure 2022 continues to end on a high note, and let's propel that momentum forward into 2023. So hope you all have an amazing start to the year as well. And looking forward to having you all back.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Thanks. Safe ones. Peace.
Awesome. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Ellie. Have a good one. Bye.